We're live. Hi. All right. Good afternoon. Today is June 5th, 2020, and today we're going to talk about secret codes at Apple and a whole lot more because this is the iMore show. And joining us this week, as every week on the show, is iMore's expert therapist, co-founder of westmounttherapy.com and anxiety-videos.com, Georgia Dow. Welcome to the show, Georgia.
Good evening.
We're having a relaxed and calm voice today. And also joining us is Joe Keller, Assistant Managing Editor of iMore. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Good to be here as always.
And I am Lori Gill.
I like remember to say my name. I like the enthusiasm Joe had there. So excited to be here.
Very
excited. We're here. There we go. That's good enough, right? We're here.
We're here.
So before I start the show and we get into all the fun nitty-gritty about Apple, I want to take a minute to just talk a little bit about the issues that are happening right now in the world. The iMore Show is an Apple and tech podcast. And in this circumstance, we've made a conscious decision to not talk about the racial issues, the police brutality, the protests. We're not ignoring it. If you want to reach out to us on Twitter, we would love to talk to you more about it. We also have articles on iMore that you can read. We'll drop the links in our show notes. You can go to imore.com and find the tags Black Lives Matter or civil safety. But we've made a conscious decision that when we're in the show, we're going to talk about Apple. We're going to talk about tech. That's what we're experts in, and that's what we want to talk about. So again, please feel free to reach out to us if you want to talk about our feelings about the social issues that are happening, the racial issues, the protests, all of that. We would love to talk to you more. Reach out to us on social media, but we're going to leave it out of our show. So that part's done. Let's move on to Apple.
And just because sometimes you need a break. It can be very heavy and really hard to see all of the horrible things that are happening right now. And so this is a moment of a break to be able to have some fun tech news. I don't know if fun is the right thing, but a little bit of a breather.
And it's a break for all of us as well. We're just as affected by this as anyone else who is witnessing it. Maybe not anyone else, but we also need to just take a break for an hour, talk about tech.
Yeah. And hang out and have some fun. In fact, that's something I was thinking about this morning I was really looking forward to our hour of tech fun break and just kind of taking a moment to be around each other and talk about the things that we're good at talking about. So, yeah. And I hope that everyone feels that way too.
Well, the only thing is that we have the luxury of being able to take a break. And for some people, they can't. This is their day-to-day life. And so, we can acknowledge that,
Yes.
Some people don't have that privilege.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay, so that part is over. Let's move on to some Apple and tech stuff. So we're going to pivot right away from that and kind of jump into some fun things. A lot of the stuff I want to talk about is 9to5Mac is at it again. They're digging through the codes and they're finding some evidence of some fun and interesting things that may or may not be coming soon. So one of them I want to start with is the rumor that just came out. I think this just came out this morning, actually, that Apple might be preparing for some bundled services. Georgia, I know this is something you've been really excited about.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think it's a really good idea. I think that there's certain services that we've spoken so much about certain services that I wouldn't use, but if they were bundled together, then I might use them. And if you use them, then you might continue. So I'm not that interested in, news or magazines, but if they were there, I look at Apple News because it happens to be easy and on the feed. And so I think that people then get used to it, and then Apple has a great area of, they can make some more money to make better technology in other areas.
Yep. So what I think So first of all, this is code that's discovered in 13.5.5. So it's not even an early build of iOS 14. This is code found in an update that we expect to have happen before WWDC, or at least in tandem with WWDC. So this could actually be something Apple announces at its convention, its developer conference soon. Joe, how do you think Apple would do this? What do you think, if this is real, if this is something they're going to do this year and soon, what do you think that's going to look like? What do we have in store for us?
So Apple's put, let's say, early code in builds before without releasing it for that particular version of the operating system. So this could be something that's coming in 13.5.5. This could also be something that they hold until some point, whenever in the fall they plan to release iOS 14. And so yeah, I think if they wait until WWDC to announce a services bundle, and if 13.5.5 comes out around WWDC or before it, I think it'll only get an announcement if it's coming in iOS 14. It'll get, or like, a proper quote on stage announcement.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll get a press release if it's coming in 13.5.5.
So Joe, you don't think Apple will announce this at WWDC? You think it would either be early with just a press announcement on paper, or at a press gathering for the new iPhone?
I think they'll announce it at WWDC if it's coming in iOS 14.
Ah, so you think they'll prep us for it?
Yeah. I think that, let me rephrase. I think they could, if it's coming this fall, but it's not quite ready yet, then, maybe they'll wait until then, because maybe they'll wait till more like the iPhone, event, whatever that looks like,
right?
If that's virtual,
which is when iOS 14 usually comes out. That's usually a tandem thing. Yeah.
And one of the reasons, and thinking about this, one of the reasons why it might be, if it's not coming now, one of the reasons it might be in the 13.5.5 code is that 13.5.5 might be the last regular update to iOS 13 before iOS 14 comes out. It might get a supplementary update a couple of years down the road to, for devices that had to stop at iOS 13, if those exist, if not all those devices move to iOS 14. But yeah, this could be just a way to get people who stay on iOS 13.5.5 to also buy into the bundle, but they might announce it with fanfare for iOS 14.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And when we talk about bundle, we're talking about like Apple Music, News Plus, TV Plus as like a group. We probably will not be getting what I would love, which is Apple Care thrown in with it for like, I don't know, like it's hard because many people have many different things that they would need Apple Care for. But like if we put in Apple Care with it, I would be so into this bundling, because like that's like $30 we're talking about, and it could be like maybe $9 or $20, and you throw in Apple Care, and that would then not be that pricey because you're protecting your technology as well as getting great music and news at the tips of your fingers. But probably that's not going to happen, Lori.
So here's the thing, Georgia. It's probably not going to happen, unfortunately. But I don't think it's totally out the window to think that it could or should, because right now you can actually pay for Apple Care in monthly installments. So if you tacked the monthly installment onto a services thing, that is all, that potentially could be part of a bundle that isn't outrageously expensive. Every little thing you add to it is going to make the bundle more expensive. The one problem that I see with that, Georgia, and you referred to it, is if I have 4 devices in my home, how am I, there's no Apple Care bundle. That's not a thing. Though maybe that should be.
I would love that, because we have
Yeah.
when you think about how much technology, if you're talking about your AirPods, your watch, your phone, your computers, and if when you purchase them, they come with Apple Care, even that would be great, that you have this extra warranty if you buy this for like a certain amount of time. Like, it wouldn't be forever, but 2 years
And
after you purchase them, if you're paying for the Apple bundle subscription, you're covered for it. That's my hope. I know that you're right.
Because the other problem is not just how many devices are covered, but also how long is that covered for? Because, we could have an Apple bundle service for 10, 15, 20 years, but Apple Care only lasts 2 years. And I don't think Apple is going to put some kind of never-ending Apple Care on your device so that your iPhone 6, 10 years down the road is still covered by Apple Care. That doesn't seem to fit.
They kept it for 2 years. When you buy, if you're in the subscription, whatever you buy from Apple is covered for 2 years without having to make another annoying purchase. I would definitely be in on these subscriptions, even though Apple Music great, but then news, I don't know. That would be more interesting to me than, getting more stuff to watch or listen to.
The other sort of issue with that, as I see it, is how you pay for it. I mean, the services that are most talked about with this theoretical bundle are Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple News Plus. You pay for all three of those through the iTunes billing system. Which is why people have thrown around ideas like iCloud storage, additional iCloud storage. You don't pay for iCloud through iTunes. That is a separate sort of billing system. Also, for people like me with two IDs, that would probably be an issue.
And Joe, do you have an old Apple ID and then a newer Apple ID? Is that what you mean by that? Because there are some old schoolers that still have that.
So what I have is my iCloud account, but then I have a Gmail email address that is associated with an iTunes account,
right?
That I set up back, when I got my first iPod, almost 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I think there's very few of you out there, but the few of you that are out there are constantly facing issues. I think when when you first could apply for an Apple Card, that a few people were having that problem. When Apple was inviting people to apply, some people were being invited to apply with their iCloud account, but that wasn't the address that they use in iTunes. So they were, there was no merging of it. So it was a complicated process for that short period of time.
Yeah, I still can't use Apple Pay with iTunes.
Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, that's still out there for a handful of people. I think, Joe, you're onto something though. The way that we pay for the Apple services might dictate the Apple services that we get. So it might be more like Apple Music, News Plus, TV Plus, and don't forget Apple Arcade. Yeah. I think those four at a reduced price. I think those four services are $35 combined. Does that sound right?
$30
combined.
Yeah. So it's $5 each for Arcade and TV Plus, and then Apple Music is $10, and then News Plus is $10.
Okay, yeah. So if they took that 4 services for $30 bundle and then dropped the price down to $20, $25, then, well, actually, Georgia, tell me how much of a discount do you need to go in on the bundle, considering that it's going to have News Plus, which is something that you're not really that interested in?
What I would really love to see is that if you bought it for the year, you got it for like $9.99, all of it, all that. I'm just saying, I'm thinking about going up against big hitters like Amazon and Netflix. I don't know how much Hulu is, But like I'm thinking about you're going against the big hitters. They're offering different things, but besides music, I don't think that they are very competitive in the other fields. So if they put it for like $14.99, like let's be less, Canadian than like the 99, but like $14.99, I think that that's a competitive rate. And people could then feel like, well, I'm doing it really for the music, or if you're really into the news, I'm doing it for the news. And that would then be worth it. I think that even if it's $25, I just see that unless you have a lot of disposable income, you're probably already going to be paying for a streaming service for your television that is already quite costly in comparison to that. So if it was like $14, $15, I can see people saying, you know what, let me try this out. And if it wasn't, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you would you, Lori, like $25 would be something, would you still be paying for TV, or would Apple TV be enough? Like, how much are you going to be spending on media?
Right. So I had this one idea in mind, which is a discount on all three or all four services in a bundle. But what you're pointing out is Apple has to give me a reason to want all four of those services. For example, if I only pay for Apple Music, I don't want to pay $25 for all four services just because that's something that exists. But I would stretch an extra $5 for all four services that I wasn't previously interested in to find out whether or not, because that's not, you then say, well, I'm already paying the $10 for, let's say, Apple Music. I'm already paying for that. I'm not going to pay an additional $15 for services that I'm not interested in. I will pay $5 extra a month to check it out. Yeah. And then if I don't like it, maybe I'll jump back to doing a single service. That makes a lot of sense. Joe, is that too cheap? Would Apple do something like a significant drop, because their services are very successful right now?
I don't know that they'd go so low as 15. 20 seems more likely to me. Actually, I was thinking about it. I'm still on my free year of Apple TV Plus, but I pay for for iTunes, for Apple Music and Apple Arcade. And once that year is due, and I have to start paying for Apple TV, I'll be already paying $20 a month. I think if people, I think people who stick with TV Plus will be in the same sort of boat.
Would you, if you didn't do this as a living, where you kind of have to we don't really have to, but like, we're in the midst of this. Do you think that you would continue with TV Plus if you weren't?
That's a good question. Given the current state of the world, maybe not, just because the shows I really like on TV Plus aren't coming back yet. But like when those shows start up again, yeah, I'll pay.
But would you just wait till they're done and then do it,
and then resubscribe for the month and binge,
and then be done? Because don't you watch, like, am I the only one that, like, when I watch a show, I will watch, like, I watch it all, and then, on Apple, like, let's just say it, on TV, like, there's only so many shows that are good. I'm sorry, like, they're trying, and hopefully they'll have more, but like, you have like maybe one or two shows that you watch, then you're waiting with a dry spell, and then there's a couple of shows that you want. There are like other stuff that you might relook at, but
I kind of like the weekly release model. I like what I call it the Hulu, where they'll release 3 episodes, and they mix it up depending on the show. So they'll like release 3 episodes, the first 3 of the season, and then they'll go week by week with a single episode the following weeks. That's how they rolled out things like C or For All Mankind. But yeah, and other shows, like I think Dickinson, they launched the whole thing at once. So the half-hour shows, they'll launch all at once. So shows, lighter shows, kind of like Dickinson, are easier to binge, but I like having some space in between
Mhm.
some episodes. That sort of level, there's a level of anticipation there.
I think there's a couple things about TV Plus, and Giorgio, like you asked that's a very important, well, it's a very poignant question for right now, because we are coming up on our last few months of the free version of the service. And I question myself of, without the fact that I work in the field that I work in, would I keep it? I think I can say definitively no, because I have not found any shows that I'm excited about yet. And Joe, it sounds like you do like some of these shows, and that's like that is good. And I have hope that Apple's going to put out more shows that will start to appeal to me. I found that shows like Mythic Quest, I actually didn't really like it at first, but I finally got on board with it and found it to be pretty fun. And another show that the M. Night Shyamalan show that I can't remember the name of right now.
Servant, yeah.
Servant.
I like that. That was
one.
my show. That's the one that I have too. I'm with you, Lori.
But at the same time, I at the end, if assuming that we were getting all of these episodes on time, in the fall, which I don't think we will. When October comes around, whenever we're going to lose that free service, I would say, okay, so Mythic Quest and Servant, is it worth $5 a month? And Georgia, like you, I would probably say no. And then I'd wait until that season was out. I'd subscribe for a month, binge watch it, and then unsubscribe again. So yeah. So from Joe's perspective, what you're saying is that you like watching them, every week, like we used to when we were kids, watch actual television when it came out, which there is something very exciting about. Mm-hmm. But is that enough to sustain a price from Apple of $20 a month for 4 services? Because that gives you a discount on 2 services, but doesn't change the price of 2 services. It keeps them exactly the same. So,
and probably, like, I'm thinking most people only like one or two services. That's my thought, is just, mm-hmm. And if you're on a budget, it saves you so much money. Like Apple Music, you want to listen to your music through it. It makes sense to keep it. But there are websites that say this is the month that you should get Netflix, and this is the month that you should get, you have the most. So if I was on a budget, if it was something that wasn't in my I would definitely say I'm going to try to streamline this so that I can save the most money, because $5 a month doesn't seem like a lot, but it builds up upon other things, mm-hmm. right? So I would then just, or I could even save the shows, right? Download them, or, like whatever you have set up to be able to save the shows, and then watch them afterwards. So you can do what Joe does and just save them for later, and you can watch one every week. But I would,
Georgia is not condoning stealing.
Not stealing.
Shows, by the way.
You record your shows that you've paid for. Watch them when you want to, on your own. For every week, for every 2 days. I don't know how long you need to wait to have that anticipation. I eat the whole popcorn. I have to. Just got it. It's there. It's sitting there. You have to eat it.
Yep. No, I get it. You eat both marshmallows. I get it.
Are you kidding? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would be that person.
Stephen Polakov, I apologize if I've mispronounced your last name, mentions there should also be a family sharing package. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're already all family sharing. The only thing that increases in price with family sharing is Apple Music, correct? So the assumption in my mind is that, yes, family sharing will definitely be there, although it might be a little bit more expensive just for the purposes of Apple Music, for example, already having an increase in price if you have family sharing for that. So, but Apple Arcade, News Plus, and TV Plus are all they're like, if you're on the family account, you get to use all of those services. So
no extra charge.
Yeah.
Beyond the subscription.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So this is just something like it's in the code. So that means, if nothing else, it means Apple is thinking about it. Doesn't mean it's happening. It just means that it's something that they're thinking about and, possibly working on and maybe bring into the future. So
in the end, for Apple, right? Once they've already, created the content, which is costly, but more people paying into it is just more money in their pockets, right? It's kind of a passive income after the effect that they want to maximize the amount of profits. And it is better to have, right, 1,000 people paying $15 than to have 100 people paying to $20.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're running all of those numbers to be able to see how they can maximize that to then bring us better products.
And I want Apple Care bundle. Doesn't have to be included in the Apple Services bundle, but Georgia, you're onto something. Apple Care bundle.
Yeah.
All of your Apple Care. Yeah. Like between 1 and 5, you get the same price. So you better buy more Apple products so that your Apple Care is worth it.
Give me the iPad upgrade program. That's the bundle.
Yeah.
See, actually, you talk about Apple Care in a bundle. It already is kind of bundled with an iPhone if you go with the iPhone upgrade program.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
The next thing that I wanted to talk about, again, 9to5Mac is digging through the code, and they also discovered that there may or may not be a keyboard shortcut coming in iOS 13.5.5, or maybe in some other future, that creates the function keys that we don't have on the Magic Keyboard. So this is kind of niche, so we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I wanted to bring it up because I think it was a mistake for Apple to not include the function row keys on the keyboard. I understand the need for the space, and the size of the trackpad is wonderful. And if they put one more row of keys in there, I don't think that they could have fit the trackpad at its size. So I get the decision, but brightness screen, unlocking things, those are so important when you are using a keyboard with an iPad. The Bridge Pro keyboard has that function set of keys, and it's I can hit the home button, I can unlock my screen, I can just by pushing a button. I don't have to reach up and touch the screen. But the missing function row of keys on the Apple Magic Keyboard with trackpad means that I have to reach up and touch the screen for things. And so there's evidence in the code that this might be something Apple will provide as a software change so that we can just hit a couple of keyboard shortcuts on the Magic Keyboard to make that happen. So Joe, I know you have a Magic Keyboard with trackpad for iPad Pro. What do you think about that?
So, I mean, I would love to see a comprehensive set of keyboard shortcuts for a lot of things, but right now we're talking about system functions like brightness and I would also say keyboard brightness is another important one.
That's
or turning the brightness, turning the backlight all the way off on that keyboard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but yeah, I've used a number of third-party keyboards for years, and almost all of them have had some kind of function row. You play pause buttons, screen brightness, keyboard. They've also had built-in home buttons. Maybe they've even had a Siri key.
Yeah. So it can be done.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Now the presence of the trackpad, before this was easy, there wasn't a trackpad, so it was just some kind of philosophical thing that kept Apple from including function rows on its iPad keyboards, because they never have. But yeah, I'd like a proper function row, but keyboard shortcuts, I think, are probably the next best solution.
Yeah, we can't. Apple's not going to take back all of our Magic Keyboards and replace them with ones with function keys.
It's what Steve Jobs said when they introduced the original iPhone. Once you ship it out, you can't go back and add a button 6 months later.
Yeah. Georgia, do you think it's overkill? Do you think that it's just a handful of whiners? No offense to the whiners. I'm one of them, so I can say that.
Me too.
Do you think this is Do you think this is necessary to actually like build in a software update that includes keyboard shortcuts for things like screen brightness and stuff, even though the trackpad allows you to do that without having to touch the screen?
Yeah, I do. I think that again, if you're moving from like a computer back to your, like you're using your MacBook, then you're using your, it becomes this user interface nightmare when you're angry because you have to do something differently. When
Right.
you're interfacing with your technology and you get used to something, if you're going to change it, it better be because it is better and more user friendly. I shouldn't have to think about it, right? It's like pinch to zoom. It just makes sense. And if they're going to be changing things for like a tap and a slider, which is actually more movement, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, it's more movement for me than just pressing a bloody button. Then I think that they need to give people back their function keys. If you're going to take it away, you really need to think about it, because that frustration level of while you have to think now, I was busy in the flow and now I have to stop to think about something as basic as changing the brightness and what do I have to, that's annoying and you don't want to do it, and it kind of ruins your flow while you're working. So I think that this is a good midpoint between that, and everyone kind of has their different feelings of using the slider or not. And some people, if you're more adaptable with technology, I think that you might be more comfortable with that. But if you've been using it for a really long time and you don't like to have to stop in the middle of your workflow to be able to do something that you could do much easier with a regular keyboard, I think that's a design error.
Yeah. One of the difficulties I think you'd have with this is keyboard shortcuts are they are a power user type of feature. They're more nerdy than the average user. And I think you've got a discoverability problem.
Yes.
No matter how simple the shortcut
is. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that if they had thought about making like little mini keys, like really small, like half keys, so you end up still with the slider kind of area, but they had these little keys that you still had, I don't think that people would have cared. I don't think that you need as wide of a space on the the interface. They don't have to be that big. Our fingers most people's fingers, if you have a wider fingers, maybe not, but just have them there, I think would have been better.
And those keys are not something that you need, to be able to touch type really fast. They're usually I'm going to reach down, look at the key because I want to, open this up or something. So they don't need to be full sized, because you can stop and look for those things. But and Joe, to your point about keyboard shortcuts being sort of a power user thing and the discoverability, I think that's, if you think about how, Apple's position on, why they didn't include the function keys in the first place and why they're potentially providing a software version of function keys for people that is a shortcut. Who needs those function keys? It's power users. People people that are everyday people that aren't, heavy keyboard users. They just like it. They have fun with it. I don't think that they're as negatively affected by not having a brightness key right in front of their face or a home button key right in front of their face. So I think this is a good compromise for those people who are having the hardest time with wanting the physical keys, but being able to actually memorize, 100 different keyboard shortcuts. Because I swear, I feel like
just put it up and you had like digital keyboard, like a little tiny area that had the digital like looking, and it's just half of it or a quarter even, and it had all of the little symbols. Because most people that are not power users, it's like brightness, it's volume, pausing. Though I think that most people also, it's the space bar that they use to pause things on certain software. But I think that if it was there physically, you could see it, and then you could still use the sliders on top of it. I think that then it would be the bridge in between both.
Yeah,
you could choose to put it up.
Idea.
Awesome. And then it's just there. And you can still do all the other functionality on top of it. And then they are digital keys underneath that are kind of short with the little pictures that we already know and love. Right?
Yeah.
almost like a touch bar.
Like a touch bar.
Yeah.
Ooh, what if that's what we're gonna get? It's actually one keyboard shortcut, and the one keyboard shortcut just calls up a touch bar.
It like pushes up the dock if you're on the home screen. Or it just comes up like the dock if you're in an app.
Yeah.
And I mean, the iPad can already display a virtual touch bar. We know this because of Sidecar.
Right. Exactly.
That already appears in Sidecar.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this. I like where we're going with this. We come up with really good ideas. Apple should be listening to this show.
We should all be hired by Apple. There we go.
Or they should just at least listen to all of our great ideas because they're so good.
Listen to us, steal our ideas, Apple.
Pay us. I'll take the money. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll like yeah.
So George is perfectly willing to sell out. We've learned that.
If
I actually thought that
Joe would say no if you hire him, is what he's saying.
Yeah,
or
he doesn't want the money.
No. Joe's negotiating. I know Joe. He's smarter than that. He's negotiating.
She's on to me.
Now we get it. Now we get it.
Okay, so yet another code dig from 9 to 5 Mac once again. This one is iOS 14, but they're apparently, now this is again an early build of the code of iOS 14, that there might be language translation support for Safari. So this is something that I've been frustrated with this not existing for Safari, because if I need to translate something, I have to go to translate.google.com and then enter in the blah, 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 and I hate it. I would love a little button at the top of the Safari browser that says translate this page, and I can click it and unclick it at any time, and then bam, I've got a whole page of mostly garbled because translation apps very rarely work properly, but at least I can get an idea of it without having to, cut and paste.
So one of the cooler moments for me in actually working here and in using all of this stuff was the day, I think it was iOS 8 launched with action extensions. And one of the first action extensions that I remember using was Microsoft's Translator app, because they had an action extension that did exactly what you want. It is a button in the share menu that you tap, and it just translates. And I watched the page translate before my eyes. It was really cool. And it wasn't particularly accurate. I mean, it was as accurate as any of these get, but you compare that web page to the Google translation, and these are wildly different passages. It all depends on the engine you've got running. And I'm very curious about Apple's translation engine and how accurate. Now, my guess,
was that a slight at Siri? I'm just asking.
Well, it's really more of a slight at Microsoft and Google, because neither of them agree. I'm curious to see how Apple negotiates this, because say what you want about Siri, it's in not all languages that Apple provides software in, but a lot of them, more than I would say the other assistants, or at least maybe they've caught up since the last time I checked. But
I'm testing this out really quickly because I have the translator app and I didn't know that this was an option here. So I know. So open up the share sheet, and when it comes to options, you have to I don't see it. Okay, so do I have to do something in the translator app?
Have you opened the translator app recently?
Yes, I just did, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it might be hidden under, like, in that menu in the share sheet for actions gets long.
I know.
Really fast. And
it
doesn't always organize them alphabetically.
Oh, wait. It was already there. It's right there. Translator. I didn't even notice it. I can't wait to try this.
See,
that's great.
What I'm curious to see about Apple's implementation, because it just they kind of just like, almost fade in, or I can't even remember the animation for the Microsoft Translator one anymore, but it's like kind of sudden, maybe a little janky. I bet you anything Apple has like a smooth, maybe sparkly or colorful animation that just kind of like wipes in across all the words. And yeah, I bet it looks really good.
Yeah. But does it translate really good is the question.
Is the question.
All right. Oh no, I keep getting this page is already in English. This page that I'm looking at is, oh no, it is actually in English. I thought it wasn't. I'm trying to find a page that's in a different language than English. This is so great. You don't even know. I can't wait to try this for reals. Like, I know it's just on my iPhone, but not on my Mac. But so, yeah. So this idea is great. I love this idea of just like hit a button and suddenly the page is translated for you. Yeah, it seems like a lot of fun. And now that I know that Microsoft Translate actually offers that option, I'm very excited. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have ever tried to use the Microsoft Translate app in a real conversation with other people, but it fails really, really hard. I tried to use it when I was in Japan, and nope, neither one of us were speaking anything that made any sense at all.
I feel like we're not quite at the era where we can hold a device between two people and they just have a normal conversation in whatever their native languages are, respective native languages are. I don't think we're quite there.
Right.
Yeah, I think people that work as translators will be in business for a little while longer.
Yeah. This same code digging also noted that there is potentially Apple Pencil support for Safari. What does this mean, Joe?
That's a good question.
Right. I was hoping that you had more insight than I did, because
it's strange because, all right now it's pretty quick to like tap the Apple Pencil or come in from a corner. Yeah, that's really basically how you mark up a web page right now. Is you pull the Apple Pencil in from one of the corners on an iPad, and it turns into a screenshot, and then you can mark it up.
Of the whole web page.
Right. And then
it doesn't just screenshot what's on your screen.
It's more like it makes
the whole page.
It's more like it makes it a PDF.
Right. Exactly.
And then you can mark up the whole thing.
Right.
And so what this is, like,
I mean, you can't just mark up the internet, right?
Yeah,
that's where I'm so confused. I think the wording that they say is that apologies. Let's see. Apple may also, nope, that's talking about the translation.
I have it. Its new feature will also allow iPad OS to scroll and touch a website, but also to draw and mark up with all its capabilities in Safari and other browsers.
What is that? What is that?
Think about writing on a web page or highlighting things. Like, again, in my mind, I'm like, I want it all, right? I want to be able to draw pictures. I want to be able to highlight stuff. I want to be able to, put a layer on top that is for me, which would be awesome.
So it's a layer.
Right? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Okay.
Like I would,
Georgia, it's like we have one brain. Right? It's like we have one brain.
I would be so excited because we've wanted this for 10 years, to be able to have a web page. And while I'm getting ready to do a podcast, I can highlight, write, draw, scribble, and maybe even screenshot that to save. So it's always there. And I could then just undo it and put it back, but just to have this layer of my stuff on it. And then maybe you could even send it to others. That would be much more than that would be a big deal. That'd be a really big deal. But what else could it be that would be useful? I don't know.
The way I think about it is, do you remember those? Do you remember overhead projectors?
Yes.
From school?
Yes.
And so you'd have the film version of a worksheet, or you'd have a couple of them, and then you'd draw on one of them. And, the teacher would draw on one of them, and then they could take that away and show the original version of it.
And they could flip between them.
So basically, you'd have just a transparent film layer over whatever. And this is how it could work across.
And you could highlight things. and
the
you
way
could
the way I edit
scribble.
the way I edit on iMore would change completely.
Wouldn't that
I
be
would use the pencil.
amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing?
I would use digital red ink.
Yes.
Just
You'd red ink
like
people,
rivers
Paul.
like rivers of
Underline.
blood across iMore.
It's so true.
Oh, drive the
And
typos away.
I know that this technology does exist, at least in some form. I have a friend who worked at a startup now this would probably have been more than 10 years ago, that did exactly that. It created a layer on top of the internet that allowed you to like live make marks and things live on a web browser on your computer. That like layer on top of it. So you weren't taking a PDF and marking up a PDF. You were actually marking up your web browser.
Yeah.
And, the startup fell through, but the technology was there. So, that was so long ago that now
I've used that as well
in the background.
Yeah, I've used that where I could highlight. I couldn't really write on the page, but I could highlight and I could, but then I'd leave the page and then come back and it was gone. And I'd be like, oh no, or it'd refresh or something. I'd be like, oh no, it's all gone. That word suddenly gone again. But it could so you're saying we might get what we want.
What we've been waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm glad that we talked about that enough to make me understand a little better, because it did seem like what does that even mean? Like my brain wouldn't allow me to think of that.
It would be amazing though. Like then suddenly I would be moving, like my want for I'm usually on my MacBook, right? That would be it then. Then I would be doing things, Now, then I want touch support though on everything. That would change everything for me.
What if you could use, continuity so that you could be working on your iPad, marking it up, and then open that web browser on your Mac, and all of the markup is already there.
You can click or tap a button that's a specific markup layer button, and it it shades that layer down over the web page.
And that's how you can save your markup and not ruin the web page for yourself in other circumstances.
And it bookmarks that specific markup for that specific web page. So it's like
it was always there and you could undo and redo, or you could show both versions, because there could be a little,
You've got your little transparency, your little projector transparency that you put on and take off.
What's really intriguing about this to me is that this is the second sort of major Apple Pencil related rumor for iPadOS 14. There's another one that that came out months ago that was Apple Pencil could be gaining the ability. Well, basically, you can write in a standard text field, and that writing would be translated into plain text or rich text, whatever you're writing in. As an update to the PencilKit API that developers can take advantage of. So if I am just noodling in my writing app, getting ideas down, that can all get translated into typing, even if I'm handwriting it.
And there are apps that already do that, but it's not built into the iOS.
Goodreads. I don't know if there is a writing to text button, but I know that if you can outline your handwriting and drag it and drop it into a text app like Ulysses or IA Writer. It will go right into plain text. That's
right. Yeah,
it's impressive.
Right. So I love this. I love this idea of Apple Pencil becoming more than just the limited, and frankly, every major operating system update, they bring more features to it. I think in iOS 13, Apple added additional colors and additional markup options with Apple Pencil, and the idea that we're kind of like moving on to like even more support for that sort of thing. Georgia, give us a quick hello so we know for sure whether or not you're working. Nope, she's muted again. So Georgia's figuring out some things on her computer right now. So we're talking as much as we can to give her the time that she needs.
I think, I mean, that could be, it could be one of the sort of stealth surprises that Apple is planning for WWDC is some really interesting updates to
Mm-hmm.
the capabilities of the pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be pretty fun. And one last little thing. Hopefully Georgia will get her audio back because I do want to hear what she thinks about this. But there might be a new color of Apple Pencil. Georgia, is your microphone? Nope, she just popped off for a minute. So we may lose Georgia for the rest of this conversation. She's trying to work it out and get back on. And I know how much Georgia loves colors. So hopefully her issue works out soon and she can get back on and chat with us about colors. But Joe, there's yet another rumor about Apple Pencil. This one has nothing to do with any kind of code or anything. It's just a mysterious Twitter account called Mr. White posted that the next Apple Pencil will be released in a new black color. Now, this is incredibly rumor.
Very rumor.
You know, from nobody that has any kind of official anything. It's probably not true, but I like to think about things like colored pencils, colored earbuds. Those are all pretty fun for me. So, what do you if there was going to be a third generation Apple Pencil? And it's going to come in a color, any color, maybe multiple colors. What do you want? What would you love it to look like?
I mean, I would love for it to come in at least black and white, either, you know, not together, not one pencil that is both black and white. That's too much, but a pencil that has a black or white option. That, you know, more options. More options is great, and more color options in the Pro line of products, even better. You know, where are my black AirPods Pro, Apple? Where are they? Or better yet, where's red? Where's blue? You know,
yes,
I've long been an advocate of increasing the color palette of the Pro lineup because Pros are fun.
Yeah,
Pros are fun too.
I would love colored AirPods Pro, colored AirPods. I think it would be so fun to be able to pick a different color. But I've mentioned this before, and unfortunately, Georgia's audio actually has just completely taken a pooper on her, and she will not be back on the show. She said goodbye to everybody. But because of Apple's ability to campaign really well, the earbuds that came with the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod for so long, the commercials that came out that were a shadow with white things sticking out of their ears, they made white in your ear iconic. And everybody around the world is making hundreds of different versions of in-ear earbuds that look similar to AirPods or AirPods Pro, but they're different colors. I don't think Apple's going to stop making in-ear headphones that are anything but white.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. If they started making like red ones, you'd get them and they'd look like knockoffs.
Right. Yeah. But they didn't market Apple Pencil in that way. They didn't make the iconic white Apple Pencil marketing campaign. So there's potential there for new colors. This rumor says that it would come in black. So so the current Apple Pencil, which is a matte white, the second generation Apple Pencil is matte white, and it has sort of a very light gray wording on it. I like the idea of a matte black with gold writing. I think that sounds so good.
Also, and I know it's sort of like it is sort of a more subtle gray instead of like black lettering or whatnot, but just think, you know, like a dark black with that matte finish that they've got on the current Apple Pencil, but it's white. It's like a bold white Apple Pencil.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'd be so cool.
That would be so cool.
I love the idea of multiple colored Apple Pencils that you can choose to be the color of your iPad. So you could choose like white with your silver or space gray or gold. a gold Apple Pencil for your gold iPad, or iPhone even.
Well, think iPad Pro now comes in gold, and they released a gold Apple Pencil alongside of it.
Yes,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Actually, what I think they should do is, they've got the that partnership with Logitech, and they make the crayon. Logitech makes the crayon. What if Apple made a line of really, much cheaper pencils that all came in different colors, and went, you could give it, and they'd come in, not a Crayola box, obviously, but you could give them to your kid, and then they'd be using whichever pencil, they'd be pre-programmed to use a particular color of the markup tool. So the red pencil would be automatically a red markup, and then the blue one would be blue. And
right. And you could change it, but it defaults to the color that is the color of the pencil.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so fun. I love it.
Good ideas, Apple. We've got them.
Yeah. Listen to us. We've come up with all of the great ideas that everybody wants. Believe us. All right. So we're down to the end of the hour now. We, run the gamut of the codes that were found. That was it for this week. So we might end up finding more, because we are now about 2-ish weeks. Well, as of today, it's probably slightly more than 2 weeks away from WWDC. So probably next week, and definitely the next week after, we're going to be talking all about things to do with WWDC and the new operating system betas that might be coming out. But for now, we're just still kind of positing on some ideas. It's been a lot of fun. So we're going to say goodbye. Joe, you wanted to kind of get one last kind of hit in there about the social issues, the racism issues, protest issues that are up in the air right now.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about this, because, we there's some of us are just dumbfounded right now. But I just want to say human rights shouldn't be considered a political issue. You could, recognizing the right of everyone to just live basically as they choose, and go about their lives without having to worry about what an officer of the law or government official is going to say or do, or whether or not they're going to be safe walking home. We shouldn't have to worry about whether or not we're safe from the police. And I just wanted to say, Black Lives Matter.
And if you are interested in learning more about the causes that are up and about and in this space right now, if you're feeling like you don't know where to start, that there's so much to unpack, and things that we just haven't been paying attention to, I highly recommend going to the Black Lives Matter website, blacklivesmatter.com. They have resources there. I've been reading into some of the things, and I've been finding a lot of helpful information that's helping me get educated about the systemic racism in our society. So, if you want to learn more, I definitely say that's a great starting point. Go to blacklivesmatter.com. They have a resources guide page where you can find out more information about that. And thanks to everyone for letting us, have an hour where we just kind of talk about the things that we love, which is technology. So thanks to everybody who was with us live today. It was great. It was great to have you here. Thanks to Jim Metzendorf for listening to us blather on and making us sound so good. And thank you to everyone that's listening later that didn't get to listen to us live. Maybe you're out at a protest right now. If you're listening to us on a different day this week, then thanks again for downloading and listening to our stuff. It's been really great. Have a good weekend and stay safe out there no matter what you're doing right now. Keep calm, keep some love in your heart, and stay safe. And thank you very much.